What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Game Plan Educational Solutions. I'm Cecilia Tomez, and this is the best channel for history teachers that want to be more effective, efficient, and influential educators. So you might have read the title, and in today's video, I lied. Okay, so in order for you to have context about what this lie was about, let's go back about 5 years. So 5 years ago, it's my personal preference and policy not to get background information on the incoming set of students. I ended up overhearing a conversation about the students I would get next year. And I gotta tell you, I wasn't thrilled about coming back to school. Though I had heard the tea, I determined that I was going to at least give these students a chance. And I made a pact with myself that I would not check my rosters to find out which class was regular, quote unquote, and which class was pre-AP. What I realized when I finally decided to check my rosters, because I ultimately had to, because I had no idea who was regular and pre-AP, I determined that I would teach everybody, of course, with their IEPs and their lawful accommodations, but I would teach everybody exactly the same. I was absolutely stunned to realize that my class's potential. From that moment on, I realized that the way I approach my class and my perception of my class will really affect the way my students show up. Welcome to my kitchen. If I had a bottle of pills, I took these pills in my hand and I said, if you drink these pills, you will be a smarter, more charming, and younger looking person in the morning. And if I was a credible source that you heavily respected, and you saw the proof in my own life and appearance, would you possibly drink them? Perhaps. And let's say that after drinking said pills, you noticed differences in the way you interacted with people. Let's say that you noticed your skin being less wrinkled and looking more refreshed. Ultimately, you would conclude that these pills had been the magic solution that you were looking for to resolve all those problems, all those limitations you thought you had. This, y'all, is called the placebo effect. And believe it or not, it's very applicable to our classroom. All right, y'all. So you may or may not have heard of this personal development book called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. And in this book, he argues that if people are able to reconstruct their self-image, they will literally act, behave, respond in accordance with this new self-image. Y'all, this nugget of knowledge is game-changing for your classroom. Let me tell you why. If you can help support your students through the recreation of their image of who they think they are because they're regular or because they've been pigeonholed by labels or limitations to be a certain type of person. The person that, well, I'm a such and such type student, I don't make 100. I'm a this type student, well, I'm not supposed to behave well because, I'm tough like that or whatever. Y'all, if you can support your students through recreating their self-image, their behavior will change, their actions will change, their scores, their grades, you will be operating with a human, an entirely different human that has and believes that they have a different, better, higher capabilities. Game changer. Okay, so for the really juicy part, how do we put this placebo effect in our classrooms? How do we make it work in our classrooms? And how do we support our students through recreating their self-image? So the first thing you want to look at my first tip for using a placebo effect in your classroom is make sure that you utilize positive phrasing about your students' ability. So I don't care if they bombed the test, and y'all, every single strategy I'm about to share with you, I have tried with my students, with all different types of students, okay? So the first thing I did is a positive phrasing about your student's ability. So even if they bombed a test, you still want to be like, hey, look at that, you got this really tough one right. Now, I'm not saying we're going to lie to our students or anything to that extent, But can we support them in shifting their perspective to focusing on what they are able to do successfully? You have no idea what this will do to your students' confidence level, where you're training them and supporting them in focusing on what they can do, what they are doing. Because y'all, good thoughts equal positive self-esteem equal positive, good, higher performance. Okay, so tip number 2, do not lie to your class about how challenging something really is. I don't tell my students, oh, this is easy. And then they go into a test and they're like, you lied to us, right? You don't want them to lose faith in you, and you definitely don't want to break their trust. But what you can do, like I mentioned in tip number 1, is you want to focus on the positive. So in this case, you want to express to them that no matter what comes their way, they are prepared and they will be able to face that challenge easily. Tip number 3 for recreating the placebo effect in your class is to share improvement stats. I feel like as teachers, we live and we dwell in a culture where they love to parade sometimes our low scores or areas of need in front of our peers, in front of the school. And this honestly does nothing for our self-esteem as educators, okay? But that's the topic for another video. In this case, our students are exactly the same. The reason why you want to share stats is because honestly, some of our students are very much into statistical data and they got to know the numbers, and it really helps them visualize their progress, because that is what you're going to focus on, the progress. If you consistently just focus on the things that your students are failing at, then that's all they'll be able to see. And this will really drop their self-esteem. If you constantly focus on the behavior where they're always messing up and we're just rubbing it in their face all the time, they'll become discouraged, like they can never get anything right, and why even try? So in order to enact this placebo effect, what you want to do is when you share scores, even if your students didn't pass the test, you can focus on the overall number of questions that they got correct as a class. You can showcase or show the areas in which they performed strongest. And this isn't about comparison with your other class periods. This is about what did you all score the first test or the first time around, or in our first activity or first trivia, that now you can answer a lot more easily. For more challenged learners, honestly, sharing the students' progress instead of the questions they got wrong or how badly they failed is way more motivational and will do so much more for their performance if they feel and know that passing is within reach. Tip number 4, have unshakable confidence in your class. So one of the reasons why this experiment worked so well in my class is because I honestly salvaged all my energy to show up to school, and I would tell my class that I was super excited about seeing their projects because I knew that they were going to be just absolutely phenomenal. And to be frank, I wasn't faking it. I was being really genuine. Like, if the students see that you're confident and you're their teacher, if they feel like you see potential in them, they will perform to that potential. It's amazing what having unshakable confidence in your class will do for your students. Tip number 5, you want to set goals with your class. If you get in the car, but you don't know where you're going and you don't put it on the GPS, chances are you're going to be going in circles, and you don't want your class to feel directionless. You want your class to feel like goals are attainable, progress and growth in your class is inevitable, and that your students have unlimited potential. And the way to do that is to set goals for your class, attainable goals. Now, sometimes do we need miracle level goals? Oh, absolutely. I know all about that. But in your class, you want to start off by creating levels of growth so that your students don't feel overwhelmed trying to reach all these goals from 0 to 100, right? This isn't a Drake song. So in this particular case, what you want to do is create and plan out small scaling steps that your students can read. It's great if you have something that's individualized, like maybe a growth chart or something like that. I personally had growth charts for each individual student that they had in their possession so that they could see their growth and track their growth. But we also had a class growth chart. And again, this wasn't about comparing the students, because I told them every class period has a different number of students. I would put up percentages. And so their goal is to just be their own percentage from last time. When we focus as teachers about not making this a competition between students, but rather growing collectively, this really helps your students know that the goals that you're setting are attainable for them and that you believe in their ability and in their progress. So when you actually take the time to implement all these little in-class placebos, this is what you can expect to see. Well, first, your students are going to be intrinsically motivated. If you know that you can win, let's say you go to Las Vegas, okay? And you know that one of those little slot machines is rigged in your favor each and every single time. Are you gonna play in that slot machine? Heck yeah. Are you gonna be scared of gambling a lot of your money in that machine if you know it's rigged in your favor? No. So in the same way, if your students feel empowered to play the game, to work outside their comfort zone, to really challenge themselves and not be scared of challenging activities and projects and assessments, then you will definitely see them, perform at that level and be motivated to show up to class because they feel they can do it. You'll also inadvertently be creating a social, emotional learning environment that is supportive of your students' emotional needs. Their self-esteem is going to be through the roof because you are actually creating practices that support their self-esteem and their confidence as people, right? They'll believe that anything is within reach if I can do this class that I thought I was bad at, right? Also, you'll have better tutoring attendance, better work completion, because again, they will feel empowered. If they feel they can do it, they're gonna at least try. You'll also have a better relationship with your class. One of the things I've noticed is that a lot of my students that have been reluctant, that have given me more pushback, all they really want and need is somebody to love them, somebody to believe in them, and someone to feel like they can. And this is gonna be game-changing in your class culture and in the relationship with your students. If you nail that relationship with your students will move mountains, oceans, everything for you. Noted. You're also going to notice a difference in their performance at final exams or their midterms or, heaven forbid, their state assessments. Because again, you have built them up with such a confidence and you've created all these systems and all these behaviors in yourself that end up seeping into your class culture, seeping into your students' psyche. You have just helped them recreate their self-image. You have literally supported them in believing that they can win at this game. They are good at history. It's all change in perspective. It's all about a shift in perspective, y'all. It'll change your students' lives, it'll change your life, and it's gonna change your classroom forever. I really hope that you found this video insightful. If you like some of the strategies and the techniques that I share with strategies for you to be more effective, engaging, and influential with your students, make sure you check out the link below, Teach Like an Influencer. That is a personalized support program for stressed but passionate teachers. As always, I hope you have a fantastic day. Until next time, class dismissed.